This week is the showdown between the Pacific and Atlantic. Whose parameters came out closest to what the ocean parameters should be using our hobby grade aquarium test kits? Welcome back, fellow reefers. Today is the long-awaited event we've all been waiting for. The Atlantic versus the Pacific Ocean Showdown. Predictions were made and the winner of one of our Reef Junkie t-shirts will be announced later on in this video. And for any of my other subscribers or new viewers seeing this, a link is in the description below for you to click on if you'd like one of our t-shirts and want one of your own. For those joining us in this video segment, we did an experiment just for fun, testing the water samples of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans with our hobby grade test kits, just to see how they compare to recorded ocean averages. This was my daughter's idea to do this, so we have her here today to help out with her idea. The Atlantic Ocean is home to many different species. Some we have in our aquariums.
The banded butterfly fish from the western Atlantic. The
green moray eel from the Florida Keys and the Bahamas.
Queen angelfish from the western Atlantic.
Three-spot damsels from Florida. Crabs, horseshoe crabs, red Valiatan lionfish, all been well known for their successful human-induced invasion of the western Atlantic. Lionfish are invasive and are killing fish all over the reefs. Stop releasing your lionfish into the oceans, please. Give them to your local fish store. The Pacific Ocean is no different when it comes to being home to many species found in our aquariums. One of my favorites, which is not reef safe, the clown triggerfish from the West Pacific.
Common clownfish and carpet anemones, both from the West Pacific.
Hippotangs from the tropical Pacific, and one invertebrate I will never keep, the peacock mantis shrimp from the tropical West Pacific. So let's get on with the showdown in round one. Which sample of nitrates were the closest to average of 0.05 for shallow areas, 2.5 for deeper areas? This is a huge margin to fill.
Coming in at 0.10, we have the Atlantic sample. The Pacific sample coming in at below, check this out, 0.02. The Atlantic sample falls spot on, taking the first round. Could the Atlantic have more nitrates because it's a more populated vacationing spot all along the U.S. East Coast?
Tell us what you think. I know I can't afford to go to Hawaii, but I can afford to go to Myrtle Beach. With most of our corals coming from tropical waters like the Indo-Pacific, should we expect that sample to have more accurate calcium levels? Let's go with the start of round two.
Calcium results were 395 and the Atlantic sample contained 390. The average calcium level in the ocean is 412.1, making the Pacific the winner of round two, being closer to the calcium average.
When most of us go to the beach, we all do one thing. Well, except for me. I have never been to the beach. In fact, I have never seen the ocean with my own eyes. Maybe that's why I have such a crazy infatuation with reef keeping my whole life. But everyone goes to the beach to swim. Could the laundry detergents in bathing suits or chemicals like sunscreen leach into the water, having an effect on phosphates? Are phosphates elevated during peak beach seasons? I don't know. If anyone knows that, let us know. I don't think Hawaii has a peak season. It's Hawaii. Who doesn't want to go there year round? Speaking of rounds, let's get ready for round three in the 7-round event.
The Pacific has an average of 0.10, while the Atlantic has an average of 0.07, with 0.25 ppm for the Pacific and a 0.15 ppm for Atlantic. This round belongs to the Atlantic Ocean for a difference of 0.08 ppm.
What other factors can contribute to high levels? After 3 close parameter tests, let's see where we stand. The Atlantic is ahead, winning 2 rounds. Can the Atlantic stay strong in its corner, or will it take some surprising hits from the Pacific? I think the Atlantic is coming out strong and fast and might just wear itself out if it does not pace itself. The remaining rounds are alkalinity, ammonia, salinity, and magnesium. I hope you use that time for an intermission because it's now time for round 4, with alkalinity and or KH. Will the winner mirror that of the calcium sample since they go hand in hand?
Coming in with 6.49 for the Atlantic and 6.16 for the Pacific, Atlantic takes this round by falling right in the average of 6.36 to 6.78.
We have really underestimated the power of the Atlantic. It's strong, dealing with all the nor'easters and hurricanes. Pacific looks soft, sitting there in its corner all pretty with coral-infused trunks on. I don't think the Pacific was ready for this fight. Round 5. I think humans add to the ammonia levels in the ocean, and I bet if we took a sample that was not from the beach, the outcome would be much different.
0.02 is the average for the Atlantic, while the Pacific has an average of 0.05. As for the results, the Atlantic sample is less than 0.15 and the Pacific was close to 0, but not quite 0, giving the Pacific the win for round 5.
Looks as though the Pacific will not go down and is here for a fight after all. Round 6, salinity. Which ocean is going to be saltier after this decision?
Averages for salinity in the Atlantic is 1.025 and the average for the Pacific is between 1.022 and 1.025.
Wait a second, is that some kind of buffer for the Pacific it's using? My opinion, that needs to be looked at further for cheating. Does that number vary simply because the Atlantic is just saltier than the Pacific by nature?
With the salinity of 1.024, Pacific steals another round and the Atlantic falls short with a 1.023 result.
I don't know how I feel about that round. They both were in range, but the judges had to go with that 2.5 to 2.6 range reefers use in their aquariums. What a comeback for the Pacific. The ocean in the corner with the pretty trunks has really proven that he is here for the fight. With a recap so far, the Pacific has 3 wins and the Atlantic has 3 wins. We have a tie so far. Can you believe that? Both oceans are still standing and are hungry for the win. It's all going to come down to the final round of this 7-round matchup. Both oceans are ready and they come out for the final 7th round. This is for all the marbles and it's going to come down to magnesium.
Magnesium levels in the Atlantic are recorded to be 1283.7, while the levels in the Pacific are recorded to be 1272. During the testing, the Atlantic had a result of 1140 ppm, which is 143.7 ppm lower than average. The Pacific sample had 1305 ppm, being 33 ppm above average, giving the Pacific the final win.
Who's seen that coming? And don't say any of you did because you watched the past 2 Atlantic and Pacific test results videos. The winner of the Reef Junkie t-shirt was LG Warrior with his predictions. Congratulations, and check out his channel while all of you are leaving the arena and heading back to your cars.
So until then, we'll see you on the next one.